Cody, I loved the conversation when you stopped by my house the other day and we talked for like an hour.
So
Like, it was a good conversation.
thank you.
It all
And
started with one quiet sentence, just a whisper really, but somehow it hit like a thunderclap. The sister wives' world, already tense and fraying at the edges, shook as that one line made its way out into the open. It wasn't shouted. It wasn't even meant to be heard, but it slipped through raw and real, and once it did, there was no taking it back. Whispers turned into gasps, gasps turned into anger. Fans the ones defended questioned everything, and the ones who had been suspicious, they finally felt seen. Because deep down, everyone had been wondering the same thing. Was this family ever really whole, or had someone been pulling the strings all along? Some things deserve to be kept quiet. That's what Meri Brown said, calmly, almost like a passing thought during a live chat with content creator Grace Lovely. But the moment those words left her lips, the silence that followed was deafening. It was the kind of sentence that makes time slow down. You could practically hear jaws dropping across living rooms everywhere. Fans froze, viewers leaned in, because in that single simple line, there was weight. For a woman who spent over 30 years in a broken, complicated marriage, who stood by as her husband legally married someone else and slowly pulled away from her, Meri's silence isn't just confusing, it's maddening. To the fans who watched it all unfold, it feels like a betrayal in itself. After everything she's been through, after all the heartbreak and public humiliation, why is she still holding back? Why, after years of being pushed aside, is she protecting the very people they believe helped tear her apart?
Okay, first of all, I'm so glad that you had her stop talking over you and trying to Robyn-splain, Meri-splain. I don't know what's happening there.
The speculation caught fire like a 4th of July sparkler, bright, fast, and impossible to ignore. Is Meri still protecting Kody and Robyn? And if so, why? What is she holding onto that she refuses to say out loud? In the days after that interview, social media exploded. Some fans were stunned. Others were flat out furious. "Oh my hell, Meri, let it out already," one comment read. Blunt, frustrated, and instantly viral. And believe it or not, that was one of the kinder ones. The anger wasn't just about what she did say. It was about everything she didn't. Meri has stayed the quietest since the divorce, almost hauntingly so. While Janelle and Christine have laid their hearts bare, sharing their stories of heartbreak, betrayal, and manipulation, Christine even going as far as taking it to court, Meri has chosen a different path. Her voice, calm. Her tone, measured. Some would even call it calculated. She's made it clear, silence doesn't mean loyalty, but to the fans watching closely, that silence speaks volumes. Because when someone's been through as much as Meri has and still refuses to spill the tea, it raises eyebrows. So the real question lingers in the air. Is Meri protecting her own dignity or protecting their secrets? From the outside looking in, it's a hard pill to swallow. After everything she's been through, years of emotional abandonment, public humiliation, and being pushed aside, most people would want to speak up, to finally set the record straight, especially knowing that Kody and Robyn are still living comfortably in that $2.1 million mansion in Flagstaff, untouched and unbothered by the wreckage they left behind. But instead of spilling her truth, Meri sat across from Grace Lovely and said, "Divorce doesn't mean hate." She insisted that not every ugly truth needs an audience. She even compared her silence to divorced parents who choose not to badmouth each other in front of the kids. And sure, on paper it sounds like wisdom, like grace, but it didn't land the way she may have hoped. Because to fans watching, especially those who followed this saga for over a decade, her silence isn't just about maturity. It feels like protection, not for herself, but for Kody and Robyn. By refusing to speak, Meri's giving them shelter from the tidal wave of accountability fans believe they deserve. And that's what stings the most. But that night, Meri didn't just stop there. She dropped something else, something that made the air in the room shift. A comment that left people wondering, is Meri about to finally break her silence? Or is she just learning how to hide the truth even better? Because while her take the high road reasoning may sound noble, fans aren't buying it anymore. And the backlash? It came quick and loud. Especially in the online corners where Sister Wives loyalists have been tallying every wound, every betrayal, every silence for years.
I'm trying to be as honest as I possibly can.
They remember the awkward silences, the tight, uncomfortable smiles, the way Meri sat frozen on the sidelines while Robyn slid into the spotlight. They watched it all happen, how Meri was slowly, painfully iced out, not just emotionally, but physically left behind, as the rest of the family restructured, reshaped, and moved on without her. And now, after finally walking away from the marriage that hollowed her out for years, she's still defending their dignity. That's the part fans can't wrap their heads around. The frustration, it's thick. You could slice it with a butter knife. She's still under their spell, one fan commented. Meri's protecting the people who destroyed her, said another. Make it make sense, because what's really happening here isn't just confusion, it's emotional whiplash. Fans had hope. They were rooting for Meri to rise from the ashes like Christine and Janelle did, to claim her power, to speak her truth, to let a little fire through and validate everything viewers suspected for years. Instead, she's offering up soft sound bites, platitudes about privacy, respect, emotional maturity. But the more she insists she's not protecting Kody and Robyn, the more it sounds like she absolutely is, especially when she says things like, I don't think just because I got a divorce, I need to go tell all the tea. And that word need, that's the one that made people pause, because it didn't say can't, it said don't need to, which implies she could, which only leads to one bigger, louder question echoing through the fandom. What is Meri choosing not to tell us? And here's where the temperature really spikes, because viewers haven't forgotten how Meri was treated during those final brutal seasons. They remember Kody looking her straight in the eye and saying there was no marriage. They remember Robyn smiling sweetly for the cameras, pretending to support Meri's feelings, while quietly pulling every string behind the scenes. The emotional abandonment wasn't subtle. It was televised, scene after scene, year after year. So when Meri says she doesn't want to live in the past, sure, that might sound noble, maybe even healthy. But in this family, the past is the story. The past is why fans care. And when someone refuses to tell their side, especially when their side holds so many of the receipts, it doesn't feel like grace. It feels like betrayal, like a shield being held up for the very people who, in the eyes of so many, got away with everything. What makes it even more puzzling is Meri's own admission. She slipped up, she said, let things out on social media or on camera that she didn't mean to share. It was one of her most honest moments, and it cracked the armor just for a second. Because if things slip out, that means there's more. More she's holding in, more she's choosing not to say. Maybe even a vault of memories, of conversations, of cold hard truths she's locked away. But why? That's the question echoing louder than ever. Is Meri protecting them or protecting herself? And just when you think the tension couldn't get any thicker, Meri drops a metaphor so loaded it stops the conversation cold. She says her silence is like what divorced parents do, how they avoid bad-mouthing each other in front of their kids. At first, it sounds thoughtful, even mature. Some fans nodded, thinking maybe, just maybe, she's trying to rise above the mess. But for others, that was the moment everything shifted. Because that analogy, it stung. Not just because of what she said, but because of what it seemed to dismiss. In the Sister Wives fandom, patience is already worn razor thin. These are people who followed every tear, every betrayal, every cold shoulder for over a decade. So when Meri said, I'm not going to do it in front of the world because I don't need to, it didn't land as graceful. It landed like a door slamming shut. Across Instagram, Reddit, TikTok, you could practically hear the eye rolls. Fans weren't just disappointed, they felt shut out. After investing so much in Meri's story, in her healing, in her escape, they were met with vague restraint instead of cathartic honesty. And more than anything, her words suggested something no one wanted to believe, that Meri still doesn't fully grasp the depth of damage Kody and Robyn caused. Or worse, that she does understand it, and is still choosing to protect them anyway. That comment, so casually delivered, almost with a shrug, sparked a wildfire of speculation that hasn't stopped burning. To some, it wasn't just about discretion. It was about fear. Because let's be honest, we've all seen what happens when someone dares to speak out against Kody. The icy shutdowns, the sudden erasure, the way he cuts ties like people are replaceable. So maybe Meri isn't protecting Kody and Robyn out of love. Maybe it's survival. Others have a different theory. They think Meri's playing a long game, trying to keep some sort of connection alive with Robyn, not for emotional reasons, but strategic ones. A future business venture, a book, a spinoff, or maybe just a last-ditch attempt to keep one foot in whatever's left of the Sister Wives world. But the loudest voices, the ones flooding the comments, the Reddit threads, the YouTube recaps, they're saying what so many have long suspected. Meri knows exactly what went down, and she's choosing silence over scandal. Call it self-preservation, call it lingering loyalty, call it Stockholm Syndrome. Fans are split on the reason, but one thing is crystal clear. No one believes she's just being respectful. Not anymore. It didn't help that Meri followed it all up with a strangely timed confession, a little moment of reflection that made everyone lean in just a little closer. She admitted, almost laughing, that she's made comments in the past she didn't mean to share. Oops, did that just happen? She joked, chuckling like it was nothing. But in this world where silence hides history and every word is dissected like evidence in a courtroom, that laugh didn't land the way she thought it would. Because when secrets are currency, slip-ups aren't cute, they're clues. And fans picked up on it instantly. If she's let things slip before, then what almost came out? What did she nearly reveal? How many times has she tiptoed up to the truth, only to stop just short? And maybe the biggest question of all, is it only a matter of time before that dam finally breaks? The truth is, Meri's entire post-divorce image has been one long winding contradiction. One moment, she's distant and philosophical, speaking in broad strokes that reveal nothing. The next, she's casually dropping hints that something much bigger is simmering just beneath the surface, things no one was supposed to know. And every time she opens her mouth, it reignites the same burning question. Why won't she just tell us what really happened with Kody and Robyn? But before the momentum could build, before anyone could press her harder, Meri did something no one saw coming. She flipped the conversation. She took back the mic. And this time, she pushed back. Not at Kody, not at Robyn, but at us, the audience, the people who've been watching, waiting, rooting for her to finally spill the truth. With a calm voice and a glint of quiet rebellion, she made it clear. She's not staying silent to protect anyone. She's staying silent because she wants to, because it's her line, her boundary, her choice. I don't personally think that just because I get a divorce, I need to go tell all the tea, she said again, firmly. And just like that, Meri flipped the entire narrative. It wasn't about fear. It wasn't about loyalty. It was about control and reclaiming it on her terms. Suddenly, she wasn't just the woman left behind by the Brown family's unraveling. She wasn't the bruised heart, the silenced voice. She became something else entirely, the one holding a line, the one choosing silence, not swallowing it. And for a brief, flickering moment, that choice didn't look weak. It looked powerful, not evasive, not afraid, but grounded, like someone who's been through fire and decided not to hand over the ashes. She wasn't biting her tongue. She was guarding her peace. But even in that power, something didn't sit right. Because when someone goes out of their way to say, I'm not protecting them, it begs a question most fans can't ignore. Why say it at all? They've seen the tapes. They remember the cold stares, the clipped tones, the way Kody casually declared he was no longer married to her, on national TV no less. They watched the emotional shutout happen in real time. Every awkward dinner, every forced hug, every moment Meri stood on the sidelines while someone else, usually Robyn, stepped into her space. So when Meri insists she isn't interested in revenge, it doesn't quite land as noble. To some, it sounds like she's still in denial. To others, it feels like she's speaking in circles, always returning to this theme of silence, of choosing not to share. And while Meri stays quiet, Robyn reaps the benefits. Because Robyn, now the last wife standing, isn't just surviving the storm, she's rewriting the forecast. She's painting herself as misunderstood, as the one who just wanted peace. And without Meri speaking up, there's no counter-narrative, no challenge to the script. And maybe, just maybe, that's exactly how Robyn and Kody like it. Meanwhile, Kody marches on, loud, dramatic, and full of fire. He keeps painting himself as the betrayed one, the misunderstood husband who gave his all and got stabbed in the back. He throws around words like loyalty and betrayal, as if he didn't spend years slowly unraveling the family himself. And through it all, Meri stays quiet. Or tries to, because the more she speaks in measured tones, the more her neutrality starts to feel like something else entirely. A quiet defense. A defense not just of the past, but of the people who defined it. And that's what hurts the most for the fans who have stood by her through every awkward episode, every tearful confessional, every brutal Kody putdown. They weren't just waiting for Meri to leave, they were waiting for her moment. The mic drop, the fire, the sentence that finally started with, you know what, enough is enough. But instead, they got a woman who seems caught in two timelines. One foot in healing, building a new business, traveling, smiling again, and one foot still shackled to the past, haunted, not just by what happened, but by what she won't say. So now, fans are asking a new question. Is she staying silent to protect Kody and Robyn, or is it someone else entirely? That's when the camera pans, softly but unmistakably, to someone in Meri's life who has remained a steady, almost ghost-like presence through it all. Jen Sullivan, the name that's quietly echoed in the background of Meri's restraint. The confidant, the best friend, the one person who might know everything. And suddenly, this isn't just about secrets. It's about who she's choosing to keep them for.
Because I was mad at him and you were mad at me and now I
was
didn't.
never mad at you. And now you understand why I was mad at you, but I was never mad at you. You don't
Sorry,
keep secrets from people.
it just clicked. Sorry, okay, so.
For longtime fans, Jen isn't just a friend, she's Meri's person, her anchor, her ride or die. The two of them have become almost inseparable, whether it's live streams, events, or running Lizzie's Heritage Inn shoulder to shoulder. Their presence in each other's lives feels like second nature. But lately, that bond has started to feel deeper, heavier, like there's something unspoken holding it all together. Because according to those close to them, it's not Meri's history with Kody that's shaping her silence. It's Jen. When Jen's world crumbled, when her own life hit a breaking point, Meri didn't hesitate. She didn't just check in, she showed up, and then she stayed. While Kody and Robyn were allegedly settling into a new multi-million-dollar McMansion, Meri was living in a completely different reality, one where her dreams were quietly being put on hold. She had plans, real ones, a new life in New York, a fresh start, maybe even a chance at dating again. But instead, she pressed pause. For Jen. And that's when the story shifted, because Meri wasn't just escaping her past, she was choosing where to invest her future. And more, it seems like her loyalty isn't about the Browns anymore. It's about someone else.
But when Jen's husband was diagnosed with an aggressive sarcoma, a rare, brutal cancer that led to multiple surgeries and left him unable to walk, Meri didn't just change course. She disappeared from her own plans without a word. No grand post, no performative sacrifice, just quiet. She stayed. She stayed in Utah. She cooked the meals, sat in waiting rooms, held Jen up when the world around them was crumbling. There were no headlines about it, no spotlight, just presence. Real, unwavering presence. And in that stillness, something clicked. Meri's obsession with privacy wasn't about being secretive or cold, it was about protection, because she's not the kind of woman who parades pain for sympathy or weaponizes truth for revenge. She's the kind who shuts the doors, draws the curtains, and makes sure the people she loves can fall apart safely behind them. And once you understand that, really understand it, her silence around Kody and Robyn stops sounding like denial. It becomes something else entirely. It's not about fear, it's not about shame, it's about loyalty, even when it costs her. Even when the world watching is screaming for answers. Even when it looks like she's siding with the very people who broke her. Because Meri doesn't break rank. Not for drama, not for revenge, and not for applause. And some fans argue that Meri's loyalty is deeply misplaced. That by keeping quiet, she's not guarding dignity, she's giving cover. She's allowing the very people who hurt her to continue unchallenged. But not everyone sees it that way. To others, Meri looks like a woman who was stripped of her pride on national television for over a decade, humiliated, sidelined, made invisible. And now, after everything, she's claiming something no one can twist or edit, control over her own story. She's not handing Kody or Robyn another second of screen time, even if that means letting them spin their own version of events uncontested. And maybe, just maybe, her silence isn't about them at all. Maybe it's about setting a standard. Maybe it's about showing Jen and anyone else watching that you don't need to scream to be powerful, that you can walk away without burning the whole house down, that peace, once found, is something worth protecting, even from public opinion. Still, one thing's clear now. Meri's capacity to sacrifice for those she loves isn't up for debate anymore. It's been proven in kitchens, in hospitals, in all the moments that didn't make it to television. And as fans slowly began to understand just how much of herself she gave to help Jen survive the darkest chapter of her life, a strange but undeniable possibility began to surface. Maybe Meri no longer sees herself as a casualty of Kody and Robyn's story. Maybe she doesn't see herself in their story at all, because in her eyes, they might not be villains anymore. They might just be irrelevant.
But if that's true, if Meri really has moved on, then what happened to all the secrets she could have exposed? Because according to insiders, those secrets still exist, and what Meri decides to do with them might change everything. When word got out that Meri had quietly shelved her plans to move to New York, the Sister Wives fandom didn't just blink, they spiraled. This wasn't just a change of zip code, it was a missed revolution. New York was more than a destination. It was a symbol, a clean slate, a city loud enough to drown out all the whispers of the past. It was the bold reinvention fans had been rooting for, the moment when Meri would finally step out of Kody's shadow and into her own spotlight. But instead, she chose stillness. She chose Jen. And yes, that kind of loyalty is powerful. It's intimate. It's real in a way reality TV rarely captures. But it also cracked open something deeper, something more unsettling. Because if Meri has finally broken free from the cycle of pleasing, why does sacrifice still follow her like a shadow? Is this just who she is at her core, or is she finally giving that fierce, selfless love to someone who's worthy of it? Fans can't agree. Some see strength, others see the same old pattern, just with a different name. But either way, one truth is rising to the surface. Meri's story isn't about the secrets she's kept. It's about why she's keeping them, and whether that silence is her armor or the very thing that's still holding her back.
I did not put my happiness on hold for you.
Okay, you guys want to know? Can I say it?
I don't care.
My best friend, I swear to God, this woman annoys the crap out of me sometimes. She decided that because my husband was diagnosed with cancer, she was going to change her entire life. She had plans. She was talking about moving to New York or going and traveling and doing all these things. And you know what she did instead?
Insiders whispered that the decision wasn't made on a whim. Meri had already been making quiet moves, calls to friends in New York, apartment tours, feelers out for new beginnings. It was supposed to be her moment, a fresh chapter, a place where she could finally step out from under the long shadow of Cody Brown and everything he represented. But then came the news Jen's husband was facing a brutal diagnosis, multiple tumors, a mass the size of a football removed from his leg, surgeries, rehab, a mountain of uncertainty. And just like that, Meri didn't hesitate. No dramatic Instagram posts, no cryptic quotes. She just stayed. And that decision, it hit different. Because Jen isn't just her friend, she's her person, her home base, the one constant who never asked Meri to shrink, who never demanded performance or submission. After decades of emotional chaos, fighting for space, affection, and dignity inside a collapsing plural marriage, this was Meri finally choosing a love that asked for nothing but presence. No hoops, no rules, no punishment for speaking too loudly or not at all. But in making that choice, Meri also sent a message, one that was powerful but layered. Because while it looked like healing, it also looked like avoidance. Like maybe she wasn't just walking away from Cody, maybe she was running from everything that ever came with him. From the pain, from the truth, from the version of herself fans were desperate to see fully rise. And that's what makes this chapter so complicated, because maybe Meri isn't protecting anyone. Maybe she's just finally protecting herself. To some, it was inspiring. A woman who'd spent years trapped in emotional chaos finally reshaping her life around compassion instead of codependency. It felt like a kind of healing, like Meri was finally rewriting her story on her own terms. But to others, it felt like déjà vu. Another moment where Meri dimmed her own light to hold space for someone else. Another chapter where she poured everything she had into someone else's crisis instead of stepping into the power everyone believed she'd earned. And as fans tried to reconcile these two Meris, the fiercely loyal friend and the quiet, non-confrontational ex-wife, it became harder to ignore the pattern. Meri protects. That's what she does. Whether it's Kody, Robyn, Jen, or even herself, she wraps the truth in silence like it's something fragile, something sacred. But that's exactly what makes her so polarizing, because that silence, it doesn't always feel strong. Sometimes it feels like a whisper where there should have been a roar. Sometimes it feels like resignation, like Meri's still holding her breath in a life that has already moved on without her. You can see it in her posture, in the way she measures her words, as if every sentence is weighed before it leaves her mouth. But in those rare moments when she lets the mask slip, when her voice cracks while talking about Jen's pain, or when she gets glassy-eyed over the dreams she quietly shelved, you realize that her silence isn't empty. It's full of grief, full of exhaustion, and maybe, just maybe, full of guilt. Because that's when the questions began to shift. Fans stopped wondering about Cody, they stopped speculating about Robyn, and instead they turned their attention to what Meri might be hiding for them. The narrative cracked open again, not with new drama, but with old suspicions. Whispers that had never fully died out came roaring back, murmurs about money that never added up, property that quietly changed hands, and financial choices that no one ever fully explained. Suddenly, Meri's silence wasn't just about dignity or boundaries. It was about what she might be helping to protect, and that changed everything.
Viewers aren't just interested in Meri's emotional healing anymore. They want receipts, cold, hard, dollar-signed answers. Because for a lot of fans, Meri's silence isn't a sign of strength, it's a red flag. And as the clues pile up, more and more people are convinced that what she's really holding back isn't feelings, it's facts, especially about the money. In late 2024, Cody and Robyn made a move that sent shockwaves through the fandom. They closed on a $2.1 million mansion in Flagstaff. 6 bedrooms, 7 bathrooms, a separate guest house, and even an RV garage that fits 7 cars? A dream home? Sure, but for a couple who'd spent years on TV complaining about being broke, it didn't add up. Then came the down payment, $420,000, in cash. And just like that, the internet lit up. Not with admiration, but suspicion. Where did that money come from? How did two people who were supposedly drowning in debt, caught in court battles over Coyote Pass and dodging financial responsibilities, suddenly become million-dollar homeowners? And perhaps the most glaring question of all, why hasn't Meri said anything about it? That's when the theories turn darker, because some fans believe Meri does know where the money came from. She knows the truth, but she's not talking, because if she did, it wouldn't just expose Kody and Robyn, it would blow up everything. That's when this silence stopped sounding noble and started sounding suspicious, because whispers turned into full-blown theories, the kind that keep Reddit threads buzzing at 2 a.m. Some fans believe Kody and Robyn didn't just cash out land equity, that maybe, just maybe, they reached into communal funds, money meant to support all the wives, not just one couple playing house in a mansion. It's not impossible. Over the years, there were plenty of refinancing moves, family LLC shuffles, shifting assets that on paper look legal, but maybe not exactly fair. And now, with the long-awaited Coyote Pass sale finally going through, fans notice some things strange. The split wasn't 3 ways like many assumed. It was split between 2 parties, Kody and Robyn on one side, Janelle and Meri on the other. Not thirds, halves. And Robyn, she was treated as her own entity, separate from Kody in the financial paperwork, which raised even more eyebrows. How? Why? Did Meri really go along with that without protest? That's the part that lingers, the part that keeps fans awake, staring at screenshots and legal records, asking the same question. Why didn't Meri fight for more? Because even if she truly believes in taking the high road, financial betrayal is its own kind of cruelty. Christine fought for what was hers. Janelle spoke out, loudly. But Meri, she walked away with little more than her bed and breakfast, a framed quote about empowerment, and the quiet, painful assumption that she could have said more but chose not to.
That she still could, but won't. And now, fans aren't just asking what Meri knows, they're wondering why she's protecting it. Is it fear? Is it guilt? Or is it just a pattern so deeply rooted in her she can't even see it? Because if shady power moves and backdoor deals ever went down, Meri may have been closer to it than anyone realizes. And the longer she stays silent, the more that silence starts to look like complicity. But there's something else buried in all of this. Something messier. Something more human than money or property or legal lines. It's Meri's emotional cycle. The one that's played out over and over again, and the comparison fans made next hit deeper than anything yet. Because for longtime viewers, this isn't the first time they've seen Meri shrink to keep the peace. It's not the first time they've watched her bend and bend and bend until she disappeared. For years, she tried to make herself small for Kody, tried to be loyal when loyalty was never returned. And now, some say they're watching that same instinct all over again, just with a different face. This time, it's Jen. Yes, their friendship is real. Yes, it's grounded in love. But when Jen's world fell apart, Meri didn't just show up, she abandoned her own. Her New York plans, her fresh start, her dreams, all shelved quietly, without fuss, without drama. She just stayed. And fans couldn't unsee the parallel, because isn't that what she did with Kody too? Put her own needs on mute, held her breath, waited for someone else's crisis to pass, while she disappeared in the background. Even Meri's most loyal defenders are wrestling with an uncomfortable truth. Maybe Meri isn't staying quiet to be classy. Maybe she just doesn't know how to ask for more. When she learned about Jen's husband's diagnosis, she didn't even tell Jen she was staying, she just stayed. That instinct to carry the weight of others, to disappear into someone else's pain without asking for credit, is the same instinct that kept her tethered to a man who never chose her. And while her bond with Jen is miles away from the dysfunction she had with Kody, the pattern, self-sacrifice, silence, second place, feels painfully familiar. And that's why it's so triggering, because fans want to see Meri choose herself, not out of vengeance, out of freedom. But what Jen later revealed confirmed what some had feared. Meri didn't just pause her life, she folded it up and put it in a drawer. The city, the adventure, the fresh start, all swapped for caretaking, for comfort, for a role she knows too well. And that's what made it so heartbreaking. Because Meri's worth has always been wrapped up in being needed, not being cherished. That same fierce loyalty that makes her the friend everyone would wish for, it also makes her vulnerable to repeating the same emotional cycles again and again. And here's the twist. This version of Meri, the gentle one, the loyal one, the silent one, is the same Meri fans now suspect is shielding Kody and Robyn. Not because she believes in their innocence, but because speaking the truth out loud would mean confronting just how long she let herself be mistreated. And for someone just beginning to rebuild a life from the rubble, that kind of honesty might be too much to carry. Still, fans aren't giving up hope. They're holding out hope that someday, maybe soon, Meri will choose to speak, that the weight of silence will finally become heavier than the risk of honesty. And maybe, just maybe, we're closer to that day than we think. Because when Meri recently opened up about dating again, the tone shifted. It was a glimpse, a flicker of something new. She didn't name names, she didn't hint. But what she did say turned heads. "I won't partake in any trash talking about Kody with my future partner," she said. And if that wasn't enough to raise eyebrows, she added, "I'm not going to compare him to anyone. I want my relationship to be with that person, not shadowed by the past." On paper, that sounds like healing. That sounds like growth. But online, fans didn't hear it that way. To them, it felt like more of the same. Meri dodging conflict, Meri folding into respectability, Meri refusing to name the thing that almost broke her. And it raised a much bigger concern. How do you build something new if you're still avoiding the wreckage of the old? If Meri can't call what Kody did toxic, how can she protect herself from living through it again? Because here's the harder truth. Meri's silence might not be about loyalty at all. It might be about shame. Because once you speak it, once you say what happened, you can't unknow it. And if Meri really pulled the curtain, if she called out the favoritism, the emotional manipulation, the financial questions, she'd have to face the part where she stayed anyway. That's a brutal truth for anyone. Especially someone who's been judged, ridiculed, and pitied on national TV for more than a decade. But there's still a flicker of hope. Because while Meri says she won't compare her future partner to Kody, she also says she's taking the lessons with her, that she's done carrying the past into the future. And that might just be the first crack in the dam. Still, one question remains. What happens if that past refuses to stay buried? What if silence doesn't lead to peace, but to resentment? What if the thing Meri's trying so hard to forget just keeps resurfacing? That leads us to the line that fans can't stop repeating, the line that's haunted the entire fandom. Some things deserve to be kept quiet. It was soft, almost poetic, but it hit like a gut punch. Not because they want revenge, not because they're craving dirt, but because they know that line wasn't about Kody, it wasn't about Robyn. It was about Meri, about the walls she built to keep the pain contained, about the chapters of her life she's locked away, even now, even free, even safe. In the end, it's not the silence that hurts most. It's the sense that maybe she's still fighting the same battle between protecting herself and setting herself free, between being the woman who took the high road and the one who finally let herself speak. And for fans who watched her twist herself in knots for over a decade to keep everyone else comfortable, watching her do it again, even with good intentions, feels like history repeating in real time. The fairy junk journals, the motivational quotes, the lives on Instagram, these are the breadcrumbs Meri offers now. Tiny pieces of strength, of hope, of healing. But the full story, the ones fans know holds the real bombshells about Kody, about Robyn, about the money, the lies, the manipulation, that story is still locked away. At least for now. Still, maybe the silence is the story. Maybe not dragging Kody through the mud isn't weakness. Maybe it's power. Maybe it's Meri choosing to heal on her own terms. Or maybe the vault is about to crack, and when it does, it's going to echo. So tell me, do you think Meri is protecting her peace, or is she still shielding Kody and Robyn from a truth too big to name? Let me know in the comments. And if you made it this far, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned. Because the next video on your screen, you won't want to miss it.